The eruption of Guatemala's Fuego volcano has prompted the evacuation of nearly 1,000 people. The volcano, known for being one of the most active in Central America, released columns of lava, ash and rocks, leading to safety precautions and disruptions in that area. We leave with this report. Thank you for watching.
Argentina announced 3 days of national mourning after authorities raised the death toll from recent flash flooding to 16. The authorities say more are still missing. The deadly flood struck Friday when a year's worth of rain fell in a matter of hours in and around Bahia Blanca, a major port city located in the south of Buenos Aires province. Entire neighborhoods were inundated by the fast rising waters. The storm forced emergency evacuations from homes and health centers. The authorities said more casualties are expected. The city of 350,000 residents is located 600 kilometers southwest of the capital, Buenos Aires. Bahia Blanca's mayor said that the flooding has caused $400 million in infrastructural damage. The government has announced emergency reconstruction aid of $9.2 million. Now, the surroundings coastal area was also left without power as city officials in Bahia Blanca suspended electricity due to the huge amount of water in the streets.
Of course, the current situation prevents access to the city in many cases, but as soon as the weather gives us a break, we will reach every corner of the city with greater capacity.
In the resort town of Mar del Plata, officials suspended evening activities and urged people to remain indoors after heavy rains on Friday night. Buenos Aires was also hit but suffered no major damage. The government has authorized emergency reconstruction aid of 10 billion pesos, which is around $9.2 million. Argentine football superstar Lionel Messi offered his condolences on Instagram to the victims' families. He wrote, "We are sadly following what is happening in White Bay. My condolences to the families who lost loved ones and much strength to everyone who is having a hard time at this very difficult time." Now, weather-related disasters have struck Bahia Blanca in the past as well. A storm in December 2023 claimed 13 lives. It also destroyed homes and caused widespread infrastructural damage.
After a 6-week review, 83% of USAID programs have now been canceled.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced that this morning. It amounts to 5,200 contracts with the agency. Rubio added in his social media post that those programs, quote, did not serve and in some cases even harmed the U.S.'s national interests. He went on to say that the remaining 18%, or about 1,000 USAID contracts, will now be administered more effectively under the State Department. Rubio provided no details about exactly which programs were cut and which are staying in place. It comes just after about 1,600 USAID staff working in the U.S. were fired.
Now let's talk to you a little bit more about the economy in the U.S. Why? Well, because shares on Wall Street have slumped today, led by the NASDAQ, which plunged by as much as 4% at one point earlier. The sell-off is driven by concerns about the impact of President Trump's trade policies on the U.S. economy. Investors are worried that a trade war could push the economy into some sort of recession. Well, speaking to Fox News on Sunday, President Trump appeared not to rule that out.
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. That's a big thing. And there are always periods of, it takes a little time. It takes a little time.
And now we've got tariffs and the market has been going down.
Well, not much. I mean, in all fairness.
You said, look, we're going to have a disruption, but we're okay with that. Is that what you meant? The stock market going down was the disruption? What other disruption were you alluding to?
Look, what I have to do is build a strong country. You can't really watch the stock market.
Well, our North America business correspondent Michelle Fleury says Donald Trump seems to be making different decisions in his second term.
Well, I mean, I think if you judge by past behaviour, then yes, the president has responded when markets have spoken. But I think what they're taking away from that message and that interview is that that has changed, that Donald Trump 2.0, if you like, in this second presidency is looking past the markets. And that is why we're seeing this sell-off intensifying as the day has progressed. You mentioned the NASDAQ down over 4%. Tesla, one of the big fallers of the day, down more than 10%, down more than 50% since its peak back in December. The S&P 500, the broader index, also down more than 2% today. And part of this, you have to understand, is that for a long time Wall Street didn't believe Donald Trump would follow through on his threat of tariffs. But just last week we saw those tariffs go into effect on Canada, Mexico and China. Later this week we're expecting more tariffs on steel and aluminium products. And so Donald Trump is calling their bluff, and he's saying he's willing to tolerate, as he's mentioned in the past in that speech before Congress, a little disturbance. And that has unnerved people wondering, well, what exactly does that mean? How much disturbance is this administration willing to tolerate to achieve its broader ambitions, whether that's rebalancing trade, whether that's deregulation, whether that's following through on tax cuts? That is the big unknown and is the big gamble that this administration is taking.
Well, take a look at this. The Dow Jones is down 2.6%. The Wall Street is heading for what some believe could be its worst day since 2022. This, of course, as we just outlined a moment or two ago, really based on the market's fears of recession. The one thing that markets, wherever you are, be it in London, New York or in Paris, one thing they hate is not knowing what is going to happen next. And that sense of insecurity really has had a huge impact on the markets. And the NASDAQ, I don't have that figure at the moment, but at one point I mentioned earlier, it tanked by as much as 4.2%. That, of course, is very heavy with technology stocks. So all of the US markets are not really having a very good day at all.
Well, good morning, everyone. And I just want to thank the Minister of Education, Minister of Energy. I couldn't let that slide after calling me the president. For weeks now, we've been faced with so much uncertainty coming from President Trump. Each day brings new tariff threats. Now, President Trump is threatening tariffs on steel and aluminum. He's pointing his finger at dairy and lumber, shifting timelines, different excuses, chaos and confusion. It's hurting workers, it's hurting businesses, it's hurting investments, and it's hurting families on both sides of the border. It needs to end. We will apply maximum pressure to maximize our leverage. That's why today we're moving forward with a 25% surcharge on electricity exports. For the 1.5 million American homes and businesses that Ontario powers, homes and businesses in Minnesota, Michigan, and New York. This surcharge will cost families and businesses in these states up to $400,000 each and every single day. On an average, this will add around $100 per month to the bills of hardworking Americans. Let me be clear, I will not hesitate to increase this charge. If necessary, if the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely. Believe me when I say I do not want to do this. I feel terrible for the American people because it's not the American people who started this trade war. It's one person who's responsible. That's President Trump.
On Friday, President Donald Trump welcomed to the White House leaders of the cryptocurrency industry to discuss the future of digital assets.
I know you worked, some of you, very long before people really understood what was happening. And so I congratulate you, but this is a big day.
The event signaled a dramatic shift in U.S. policy toward the cryptocurrency industry, whose major players have complained about the Biden administration's regulation and enforcement efforts. Trump made several crypto-related promises on the campaign trail last year, and the crypto industry spent millions of dollars toward his re-election and inauguration. His Securities and Exchange Commission has dismissed litigation against some cryptocurrency companies.
My administration also is working to end the federal bureaucracy's war on crypto, which was really going on pretty wildly during Biden.
And Trump signed an executive order to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. The U.S. government confiscates Bitcoin, the world's most traded cryptocurrency, during criminal or civil asset forfeiture proceedings. Now, the government will hold that seized Bitcoin, not sell it, as has been done, Trump said. No taxpayer money will be used, he said. A majority of Americans are concerned about cryptocurrency's reliability and safety, according to a Pew Research Center survey in October. Critics say cryptocurrencies are risky for both consumers and financial systems. The Trump administration's creation of a Bitcoin reserve could help some investors gain more confidence in digital assets.
It's a step towards legitimizing cryptocurrencies. If the government holds it and holds on to it, I think that is a sign that these things are legitimate to purchase.
The U.S. needs to be a leader in the cryptocurrency markets, some observers say.
We have created, in effect, a parallel second financial system to the fiat currency system. And so it's in the United States citizens' interests to be able to, for the United States to play on that playing field, lest it wants to lose financial power.
The first step for the Bitcoin reserve will be to review how much Bitcoin the U.S. government actually holds. White House officials estimate the government has about 200,000 Bitcoins, roughly worth $17 billion. Michelle Quinn, VOA News.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, welcome. We're very glad to have you. Thank you. You're welcome.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has arrived in Saudi Arabia to meet Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Ukrainian and American officials will then meet for talks tomorrow in an effort to end the war with Russia. Alex Rossi reports from Jeddah.
Tonight, Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, will be meeting MBS, as he's known here by his initials, the de facto ruler of the kingdom. That was actually a bilateral meeting that was scheduled for when the Russians were in town, and Volodymyr Zelensky didn't fancy turning up at the same time, so it was cancelled. But it's been rescheduled. They will talk about improving ties between the two countries, but they will also, of course, talk about the mediation role that Saudi Arabia is going to have in these very important talks. Saudi, of course, emerging as a key power broker, not just for this region, very important country now in the Middle East, but also the world. It's seen as a neutral venue by both the United States and the Russians, so it's a place that these talks can take place. But the main talks, you're right, happen tomorrow. Zelensky, incidentally, won't be taking part in those talks. It's going to happen at a lower level. He's going to be represented by his foreign minister, his defense minister, and the president's chief of staff. From the United States, their mission, their delegation is going to be led by the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. But it will be very interesting to see how they get on, because in the background to all of this, the big kind of ghost there is that very dramatic diplomatic spat that unfolded, horrendous, in the Oval Office. Ukraine, for its part, wants to mend its relationship with the United States, but we've already seen, a very vocal Donald Trump saying that he wants to see Ukraine fall into line and make some concessions. I mean, privately, we're hearing from the Americans that the Ukrainians shouldn't be talking about 2014 borders or even 2022 borders. They're going to need to make serious concessions. From the Ukrainians' point of view, of course, what they will try and push forward to the Americans is that whatever solution is put in place, it needs to be equitable if you're going to have a lasting peace. The Russians, incidentally, have been in Saudi Arabia a few weeks ago. They're not in these talks at all, but their position, and this is where it all becomes quite difficult, remains the same. They say that their war objectives remain as they always were. They're not going to make territorial concessions, and they want a completely demilitarized Ukraine. So it will be very interesting to see what kind of progress we see.
Ukraine is rushing more troops to hold the line in Kursk. There's heavy fighting underway in Russia's region of Kursk, where Moscow's forces have been regaining ground. Ukraine has been losing ground in the region, which it thought could hold as a bargaining chip during talks. Ukraine has lost 2/3 of the territory they once controlled inside the region. Our next story packs all the details.
Russian forces have unleashed a multi-pronged strategy to pummel Ukraine. Missiles and drone attacks have caused devastation across Ukrainian cities. On the ground, its troops have intensified their operations in the Kursk region, recapturing 3 settlements from Ukrainian control. This advance is part of a broader strategy to expel Ukrainian troops from the area and regain lost ground. In a bold and unorthodox move, Russian special forces used abandoned gas pipeline to infiltrate Ukrainian defenses. Russian soldiers traveled approximately 16 kilometers through a confined 1.5-meter wide pipeline. Now, this arduous journey enabled them to emerge behind enemy lines, catching Ukrainian troops off guard and facilitating a successful ambush. Reports from the battleground indicate that thousands of Ukrainian troops are now surrounded by Russian forces. Moscow has deployed advanced weaponry to cut off the Ukrainian troops in the Kursk region. These are images of Russia's TOS-2 thermobaric rocket launcher, which has further tipped its scale. The TOS-2 can fire even in the dark of night to target Ukrainian positions with precision, facilitating Russian advancements. Complicating matters, the US has suspended military aid to Ukraine, including critical weapon deliveries and intelligence sharing. This abrupt halt has left Ukrainian forces vulnerable, diminishing their defensive capabilities. With diminished territorial control and waning international support, Ukraine's position in forthcoming negotiations appears increasingly weak. Bureau Report, WION World is One. All right, moving on, Iran, Russia and China are strengthening their military ties through joint exercises, which will take place off the coast of Iran from Tuesday. Now, the drills aim to strengthen security, boost multilateral cooperation and counter what they call the American hegemony. The exercises, codenamed Security Belt 2025, are taking place in the northern Indian Ocean, near the port of Chabahar in southeast Iran. The exercises will include simulated attacks on maritime targets, joint search and rescue drills, spot checks and arrests. China has sent the Type O-52D guided missile destroyer Butu and supply ship Gao Yuhu from the 47th Naval Escort Task Force to take part in the exercise. For Iran, Russia and China, this exercise is an opportunity to expand their influence across West Asia. This partnership is seen as a challenge to United States' influence in the region. Now, the Gulf of Oman is a strategic location with many major shipping lanes and oil routes passing through it, making security in this region a top concern. Now, just last month, Russian President Vladimir Putin and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian signed an agreement to boost cooperation in areas including trade and military. The deal comes amid rising tensions between the United States and Iran. President Trump has vowed maximum pressure to drive Iran's oil exports to zero. He has called for a plan to ask allies to stop and inspect Iranian oil tankers at sea under an international accord aimed at preventing Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. Iran has shot back at Trump, accusing the United States of bullying tactics. Iran's UN mission has stated that the country is open to negotiations with the United States only if the talks focus on addressing concerns about the potential militarization of its nuclear program. However, it made it clear that if the aim of the negotiations is to dismantle its nuclear program, then the talks could never happen.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio traveled Sunday to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, to hold talks with a Ukrainian delegation. The aim, according to an official statement, is to, quote, advance President Donald Trump's goal to end the Russia-Ukraine war. The visit comes days after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky sent President Trump a conciliatory letter in the aftermath of a contentious meeting the leaders had at the White House on February 28. Trump commented Friday on the status of the peace negotiations.
I think we're doing very well with Russia. But right now they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine, and I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine. And they don't have the cards.
As a form of pressure to get the parties to the negotiating table, Trump has paused military aid to Ukraine and intelligence sharing with Kyiv, while threatening to impose sanctions and tariffs on Russia. Securing a deal is important for Trump politically, analysts note.
He has bet, essentially, his presidency that some sort of deal will be obtained. And I don't know, there's so many moving players during these negotiations, whether it's Russia, Ukraine, the EU.
Stand with Ukraine. In the lead up to the U.S.-Ukrainian talks in Jeddah, which are expected to last until March 12, supporters of Ukraine rallied Saturday in Washington, while Ukrainian officials denounced a series of Russian attacks over the weekend against Ukrainian targets in Donetsk, among other regions. Veronica Valderas Iglesias, VOA News, Washington.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Look. Oh my God, look at that. Look. Oh my God, look at that right there. Right above us. Oh my God, oh my God. That is, oh my God, look at that. Oh my goodness. Look, oh my God, look at that. Oh my God.
Those cars are literally under